I like the way he sets up the article, too. He's like, if you are one of these fans who is frustrated by all the bad draft picks, and he runs through all of them, and he's like, I'm here for you. But first, let's talk about this offseason signing of Mooney Ward and what it's meant and
Fantastic.
how good it was.
I mean.
But he kind of like, it's almost like Rabbit from 8 Mile, where it's like, let me tell you all the things about me before you get a chance to tell me about me. He lays out all the things about Kyle and John, and then he says, Mooney Ward.
And there are plenty, right? Like you can be like, but Solomon Thomas.
It's in there.
Right.
Armstead over DeForest Buckner.
DeForest Buckner. Right. Yeah.
Reuben Foster.
You're right.
How could you?
You're right. I actually try to have that conversation with people all the time because I don't think there's an organization in the NFL that doesn't have that list.
Well, and think about baseball in terms of draft picks where if you hit 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 4, you're loving it.
So I do feel like you're allowed to be a fan, but you're also being unfair. If you just want a list, the draft misses. All I want from my front office, mix in a bunch of home runs with your strikeouts.
Mix in a homer.
Aaron Judge the other night went 0 for 3 with 3 Ks. Should we cut him? Get him out of town. He's terrible.
You as a Giants fan are hoping he does that a few more times.
Great, Yanks. Thank you, Bronx Bombers.
Totally.
Right? Like, all you got to do is mix in some home runs with your strikeouts. And the 49ers, I believe, can absolutely sit down at the table while you scream Solomon Thomas, Reuben Foster, and DeForest Buckner.
Yeah.
You can do that, and they can look at you, and they can go, Charvarius Ward, George Kittle, Fred Warner, Eli Mitchell, but Trey Sermon. Eli Mitchell, and
Dante Pettis in the second round.
Like,
we can play tit for tat if you want. I got the list up right now.
You're all right. Like, there's no doubt. And I'm here for the conversation about concepts. Running backs in the second round. What's going on there? Why are you, or the third round or whatever? Like, why do you love that so much? And it seems to repeatedly not work. And it seems like you can grab Raheem Mostert off the street and do that instead. So those are all fair questions. But in the end, one of the reasons I support this group so much is because of that. All I want is hit some home runs with your strikeouts.
2017,
and they have.
George Kittle in the 5th, swinging a drive. He hits it high. He hits it far.
It is out of here.
2018, Fred Warner in the 3rd. That's a home run.
Home run.
I mean, you can look at other base knocks. I think Mike McGlinchey in the 1st round. That's a base hit. That's a single.
Might have been a flare. Might have been a ground out to second, but, with a diving play.
2019, Nick Bosa in the 1st. Debo in the
Samuel
2nd.
in the 2nd.
Greenlaw in the 5th.
Come on.
I mean, that's a nice at-bat.
Another good pull. I forgot about Trey.
2020, Ayuk in the 1st. That's a ground rule double. You'd like to think that.
Doesn't Brandon Ayuk feel like just untapped? Like, love Brandon Ayuk. And I don't know if he can ever do, I don't know if he can do with this team what he could do if he were a Bill or a Chief. I don't know. But it feels to me like Brandon Ayuk is just a phenomenal wide receiver.
And it feels to me like he's the one looking at this situation with Jimmy and not Trey, thinking, man, Trey, if only you would be healthy, my year would be different, because Jimmy doesn't have any real connection. He doesn't have any chemistry with Ayuk that I've seen at the same level that Trey was, because he and Trey did all of their offseason work while Debo was scrubbing his social media account.
But I feel like that's what we know about their connection was the offseason.
Right.
We didn't get, you got the rainy game in Chicago, and then you got a quarter
monsoon
against thank you. I undersold it. And I was standing it, still drying out. Unbelievable. Still feels like I took a shower.
Still drying out.
Yeah, actually, I got that question the other day. My mom calls me and goes, just life gets busy. I talk to my mom at least a couple times a week. She might dispute that. But anyway, I call and she goes, I still haven't heard about your trip to Chicago. And she asked that.
She sounds?
Oh, yeah.
I'll give you 4.
I still haven't. No, she doesn't.
No, it's a good caricature, though, of an older woman.
She's like, a quick question. Did you just stand out there in all that rain? Did you ever just leave or go? It's like, Mom, stood there, had a poncho, stood there, took it all. and then walked downtown for an hour
Did you stay for the end of that thing, or did you didn't bounce with a few minutes to go?
Stayed all the way to the end.
Because there was a couple minutes to go, and they're down 2 scores, and that place was emptying.
I had 2 friends. We was in a group of 4.
Outside?
Yeah, outside. Group of 4 at the moment. And 2 of them with about 4 minutes to go, when it was very clear that the 49ers were not going to win the football game, they're like, we're out. And they just left. And I looked at them, and I'm like, I'll call you later. I'm not going anywhere. And me and my boy Nick, we stood, because I was like, I'm taking this. I'm here for whatever this is, and I'm going to soak this in, even though it was painful.
Something about being on the road, too, would make me want to stick it out more, too. You went all the way to Chicago.
Yeah, we're at
you
Soldier
planned
Field.
this trip for months.
Probably never going to be there again.
Yeah, because Soldier's going to not be Soldier anymore, most
probably
likely.
Just also not going to, when am I going to go to a Bears game again?
Exactly.
Like what?
So to be there,
the
even though your team is absolutely getting whitewashed in the monsoon, you stuck it out. That's impressive, Mark.
All right, so we got to talk about this.
Do we?
We really do.
You and I?
All of us.
On air or off?
On.
Let's do it on.
And off.
2 guys.
If you want.
On air.
888-957-9570. You heard what Mike Silver said, and he took it as a layered answer when I said, if you're going to go back a year and a half ago, would you play this the same way? And his answer started with, well, let's go back even further. The firm thing he said was, if the 49ers had the Tom Brady situation to do all over again, they'd do it differently. Yeah, I think we all get that. And it's one of the big L's that I will wear. I was firm on my show at that time. Are you nuts, Tom Brady?
I was with you.
Look at him. He looked cooked. Jimmy had just taken the 49ers to the Super Bowl. People are yelling about one throw that was 2 yards too far to Emmanuel Mosley. I'm like, calm down.
But we'll allow
What did I say? Did I say Emmanuel Mosley?
Yeah.
Sorry, top of mind. Trying to stay present over here. Anyway.
I shouldn't have corrected you.
Absolutely you should have. Emmanuel Sanders, right? So it's like, calm down. The guy had a really nice year. They just went to the Super Bowl. You're mad about the last 7 minutes, so am I. But you're going to switch to Captain Cooked over here, who Bill Belichick is going to let walk out the door? That felt crazy to me, and I was wrong. Big time.
So was I, yeah.
Okay. So were they. And so would they do that again? Sure. But now we move forward. Would they have given up 3 first-round capital, let's call it that way because everyone gets all lost on the whole 3 picks, capital for 3 first rounds? Would you do that in order to turn all of them in to Trey Lance? It feels like the answer would be no. And I know there's context and there's a conversation there for sure, but I want everybody to listen to this because this is what really took my head here yesterday. Damon and Ratto, Jeff Wilson Jr. is on, and the conversation goes to Garoppolo. And I know that you'll be like, oh, he's a teammate. So teammates say nice things about teammates. But there's something deeper going on with this.
Jimmy is Jimmy. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks in his game right now. You know what I mean? He doesn't get enough respect and he doesn't get enough credit. You know what I mean? Obviously, shout out to Trey. I miss him. He's our guy. He still is our guy. You know what I mean? It was heartbreaking for that to happen for him. But having Jimmy in, like I said, he's already played with us. Everybody already caught balls from him. We know the angles he takes. We know the authority he demands. So it's just it's like, you know what I mean? It's just like riding a bike. You just jump on and go. You know what I mean? Like we've been doing it, so it's like nothing new.
Okay. And then Jeff was like, wait a minute. I'm not done complimenting Jimmy.
It's just him as a person. He doesn't even have to step on the field, but he gives everybody that extra hump all the time. You know what I mean? And that's like, to see his focus and see how he prepares, man, like you have to do it yourself. You know what I mean? Like, he holds you accountable without even holding you accountable, on top of holding you accountable, because he will do that. You know what I mean? So that's just the type of person Jimmy is. I feel like just him, period. Like, he's very underrated, undercredited. It's just, man, I feel like I wish I could just change it all for him, man, because he's really a great dude.
I mean, isn't it a fair question? Like, put aside the Trey Lance story. We haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
There's nothing anybody can say bad about Trey Lance on this show. We haven't seen it yet. I don't know. But if that is how a team feels about a person, can we go backwards a year and a half and fairly ask the question, why did you do this?
You can ask it.
Why did you move on from this if everybody cannot stop praising the living hell out of Jimmy Garoppolo?
Because, and this is the only answer that I think is appropriate, and it's the only answer that you can give and be even close to the truth, the man who holds the laminated play sheet, who watches this quarterback, who knows more about football than all of us in the audience combined. He lived it. He was raised in it. He breathes it. He believes it. It's his life. When he watches it, he sees Jimmy Garoppolo and says to himself, as he puts his head on his pillow, I want better. I want somebody who can do more than Jimmy can do. If Jimmy's a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10, Kyle Shanahan is thinking, I want an 8, I want a 9, I would love to have a 10. And you look at that draft and you think, there's a bunch of guys out here. There's this guy in North Dakota who right now is probably a 4, but I'm the QB whisperer. I can make this guy with his arm talent and his athleticism and my laminated play sheet, let's do this. So that, to me, is the only answer, and that's why they did it.
I supported it all at the time. I'm not saying I'm leaving my support now. However, this experience is leading me to ask some very, very uncomfortable questions. And I want to do that coming up next, especially watching the other 4 rookies from that class. They're now second-year guys. Watching them go through what all of them are going through with their specific teams. So we'd love to take your calls on that. If you could go back a year and a half ago, would you do it again?